When I Say You're Mine, featuring Luma and Notel by Midas from the Lost album 2021. Welcome back to Build Theory. And this is another I don't have enough days scheduled this week. I guess I'm going to be streaming. Alright, we're picking up on another request. And in this case, it was somebody who was asking about a dark uh, armor sentinel. Now, straight up, sentinels are very underdamaged. They do some creative things with their tertiary powers, but they're still very, very underdamaged. And Sentinels were originally sold to the player base as a ranged scrapper without the criticals. Well, a scrapper without criticals is basically a tank with less armor, and the lack of damage opportunities on Sentinels, pun intended here, led to when the power developer was working on the map, what the players want to see most, the obvious answer was more DACA. Is they were sold as range scrappers, they weren't. They weren't even close. Now, that being said, because of the way some power sets work, you do have some beam sentinels that are capable of soloing giant monsters and arc villains. If you have a very high end build, you can have a sentinel that is capable of passive farming a 707 fire farm. In this case, I'm standing in the middle of the maximum casualized damage output that +4 X8 enemies can offer. And if you notice, I'm not dying, and yes, those are the settings I am put on, and yes, those are actually bosses hanging around this character. Now, keeping that in mind, what you can do with Sentinels. This is one of the reasons why I think it has taken so long to do anything to improve them as an archetype, because there's players like me who just flat broke the game. And we came up with these builds, these methods, how we can make this character work, what powers we can skip, what powers we can take. And we have something that is very capable, may not be damaging, but it can survive long enough in most situations to be very effective. And I can also tell you from personal play experience that this particular uh, Radiation Dark does have some weaknesses. I can't pull off this stunt in other uh, with other kinds of farms, because if we do a quick look at our combat attribute, we look at the defense, we'll hide this off. I'm only really soft capped to melee, fire, and cold. I'm not soft capped to anything else. And if we look at my resistances, I'm capped on fire and cold resistance, but I'm not really capped anyplace else. So against, say, an ITF, she's not going to be able to survive this kind of damage input because she doesn't have the defense and resist to survive this. Now, she not mean she's going to be helpless on an ITF, but you're not going to just be able to stand there and say, "Hey guys, hit me, I can take it." Just not going to happen. So let's dive in. I know what the player was asking for. They were looking for a dark. And one of the things I'm probably going to say right now before I even start working on this build conversion, and we'll just go ahead and minimize her and bring her down to this corner so we can keep an eye on what she's doing and whether or not she's able to keep living in the middle of a mob. And one of the few things to keep in mind is I took the electricity mastery simply for lightning field to give me some kind of taunt aura. As you can see, the enemies are not running away. A sentinel has no native taunt management system. By putting a small debuff, in this case putting the uh, Fury of the Gladiator chant to resistance debuff, I do have some kind of proto aggro going on. There is an aggro attached to a debuff effect. So right now, that aggro effect is able to override the damage effect. And between the two, I'm not doing enough damage to send enemies running. I'm not doing enough debuff to send enemies running. So they're just kind of hanging around, beating on the character. This is kind of a. I'm not going to say it's an outright cheat, but this is probably not how it was designed to work. And now that I'm making a video on it, and I know that I'm posting this in a forums where the developers keep groaning at me, poking them. This I can almost see this resulting in a change, but Sentinels are not supposed to be able to taunt like that. Well, they're not really taunting; it's just making use of rules that are in place. And I'm not really sure this classifies as a bug either. Uh, because of that, if you're looking to do a cute stunt, this is how you would set the cute stunt up. Uh, and so let's go ahead and you can see on Radiation Blast, I already took almost all of the powers but X-ray beam. And one of the, I don't want to call it a mistake, but because I've talked about it before in previous Sentinels, the tier one I think is the uh, vulnerability. Yeah, the vulnerability offensive opportunity. T2 is the defensive opportunity. Now, if you are leveling a build, you are playing a character that is leveling up, the T2 might be more desirable because it does give you that extra bit of survivability before you start slotting in enhancements. All right, so let's go ahead and change from radiation to dark, and let's see what changed. Okay, we only lost two powers. We lost Umbral Torrent and we lost Life Drain. Looking over at our primary build, that means we lost an Avalanche and we lost a Frozen Blast. Can we pick up Frozen Blast? Well, what is Umbral Torrent? Umbral Torrent does knockback. We got down here, took Dark Obliteration late, and that has an overwhelming force on it because I had Electron Haze, which has a knockback here. So right now, our primary plan is to swap Dark Obliteration. We'll swap Dark Obliteration with Umbral Torrent. That's probably about to throw a hissy fit. Dark Obliteration needs to be at least level 12. Abyssal Gaze can be level 6. So we'll swap the two. And we will head to Info. We'll take 2 slots from Umbral Torrent. We'll put them on Dark Obliteration. We'll change Dark Obliteration to Superior Frozen Blast. And we'll change Umbral Torrent into the 4 slot. I think I went with 4 slots for the HP boost. Or if that was all I had to work with. I had to mitigate the knockback and do something else. And there we go. Okay, so the last thing, we're missing an Avalanche. Now, on Life Drain, we got... This does mean we are now vastly down on melee. And do we have any good way to get Avalanche back? Neighbor's Regeneration, Obscure Substance. Yeah, we could put it in Obscure Substance. We could lose some recharge here and put it in Black Star. And then pick up some recharge with Apocalypse. So Black Star does not do a knockdown effect. So that right now is our immediate plan. We'll take a slot from Life Drain, put it on Black Star. We'll convert Black Star to Avalanche. And then we'll, working at the speed of the computer. And we'll change Life Drain to Apocalypse to pick up the recharge that we just lost. And then we'll go and check our defenses. All right, we did Speed of Sound here for the teleport. And you can see I did Experimental Injection, took that all the way down here and put the proc with the Nmod increased run speed in it. So you could, if you wanted to take a different travel power, drop Speed of Sound and go to Super Jump, or drop Speed of Sound and Experimental Injection and take a flight. I prefer, the reason I went with Experimentation, and it's to go back to this character who's on the screen, she's still alive. Actually, on here you can see I hadn't updated this build yet. I'm still running on an older build, and I do not appear to have any of the more recent enhancements slotted. I'm not using the run speed proc. Tenabius regeneration only has 2 slots in it, so this is not quite the not quite a. This is an older build that I'm actually running. You can see it's already still pulling off something that makes you tilt your head and go, are Sentinels supposed to do that? Uh, and while I'm in here, since I've got this pulled up, we'll come back to the screen and we'll go over some of the slotting choices and why I put some slots where I put them. Looking at an actual in-game character rather than just the. Excuse me for a second. Uh, on an actual in-game character rather than just looking at a Mid-Tier Reborn window. I put the Sentinel Opportunity Strikes, chant for opportunity on Neutrino Bolt, because that's how you trigger offensive opportunity, so you're probably going to be using your T1 very often in order uh, to trigger that opportunity. And by putting an opportunity builder, and if we mouse over here, we see that uh, well, okay, it doesn't give us quite the rundown of what it does. This enhancement test trigger is equal to approximately 1 time per minute. This enhancement can only be optimized by Sentinels. Getting it here maximizes our chances on the basis of how often we'll be using our Tier 1 power. Proton Stream got the chance for Absorb because this is going to be one of our primary damage powers. It does a lot of damage. It's a high damage attack. And if we're faced off against a single target where we really want the absorb to come in, Proton Stream is pretty much a good place to put it. All of our others, okay, and this is one change you can see here, is that I took some slots from Electron Haze to buff up Tenabrius regeneration. And I also made a change to Stamina where I put a chance for heal in Stamina. And that mostly was to increase survivability generally. Because I didn't really need the knockback protection in practice because I had a 3 slot on Gladiator's armor and what other? Okay, I'd also moved a slot over to a knockback reduction on Speed of Sound. So, sewing things together and I think this is only like 7 mag knockback is enough to protect you against most forms, Circle of Thorns who drop the knockback fields. You won't be going toppling over. But I know from experience, even if you ramp up to 20 mag knockback protection against somebody like Katie Hannon, who uses Hurricane, or not Katie Hannon, Mary McCromer, who uses Hurricane in the Katie Hannon Task Force, even if you've got 20 mag knockback protection, Hurricane is still sending you flying over. So there's only so much benefit you can get out of having knockback protection. Having 7 mag knockback, and do a quick check here. I know you can't see it, but window, advanced total, status protection. My knockback is actually at 10. So, okay, so I've got, oh, Lightning Field. There's another knockback protection on Theoretic Gladiator. Another reason why Lightning Field is probably the best way to go. All right, let's bring this window back down. Let's bring it back into the corner so we keep an eye on it. And do we need to make any other changes? Well, going over what we just went over, what does Tumble Beam do? It's a superior damage attack. It has a very high base damage, so yeah, okay, putting our chance for absorb is on there. Do we want to change and Tumble Beam and Life Drain? Well, let's take that proc out of the equation for a second. If we take the proc out of the equation, Life Drain is only base 86, so it's doing less damage. It's picking up a huge amount of average damage from the Apocalypse proc. So no, we probably don't want to change and Tumble Beam and Life Drain slotting. Black Star, we already went over this. Okay, losing the proc there does mean we're doing less damage overall, but we are picking up a mitigation if we are in the middle of a mob. And since we're using Speed of Sound, we can teleport in, do Black Star, teleport out, and we've dropped our damage and we've gotten back to range where now we can bring our cones and our other powers to greater effect. And Dark Obliteration, and well, that's now servicing as a proc to potentially hold enemies in place with an Immobilize. To me, then, this looks like a good build. I already know from the elect, from the radiation, from the radiation dark elect that I'm already using, that this build will work. None of the powers themselves are really changing much. There was a large crossover with Umbral Torrent and Electron Haze both being knockbacks. Their positions are a little bit different. We can still benefit from the enhancement slottings from them. We did have to change a few things around, but it still should be solid, and we are still rocking soft caps to fire cold melee, and that does put us into a very good position once we start including the effects of the two-hit debuffs, such as the two-hit debuff in Fear or in Cloak of Fear. We should be pretty good to go, and we're also pushing pretty good resist. Once the scaling resist proc kicks in, we will be at a hard cap for fire cold, and we'll be pushing 68% or so smashing lethal. So very, very, very close to the soft cap there. Is there anything I could do real quick to give more defense to maneuvers or Cloak of Darkness? Anything that I would immediately change off? No, I don't. This is so close to the key right now for at least for dark is you either want to be very capable from ranged, and we have very good defense on AoE. We have actually really good defense on smashing lethal. Let's just do a quick example here looking at Dark Blast. Dark Blast does 2 hit 5.25%. And does it tell us how long that duration lasts? The duration lasts for 15 seconds. Dark Obliteration, let's go look at that for a second. Dark Obliteration has a duration of 10 seconds and does 2 hit 525. All right, if you launch into a mob and you hit a normal boss with any of these attacks, you will actually, in most cases, unless they're pushing some kind of two-hit resist, you will actually be able to, on a dark electric here, force your enemy uh, into you will force your enemy's two hit rate to fall enough that you will be into effective gameplay soft cap for smashing lethal. If you are right up against them with Cloak of Fear running and you are just laying on the dark attacks, you may even be able to debuff them enough to be into energy and negative effective soft cap. All right, so there we go. Oh, um, the player uh, was asking about a potential dark Psy. So, no pun intended, no joke intended. Let's go ahead and save this then. we've got a build we know what to do with here, and we're going Dark Dark Electric R1. And we'll bring up Dark Dark Electric R1 over here. Sentinel, Dark Dark Electric R1. I want Dark Electric R1, not Dark Fire. Alright, now that we've got both builds up, we can start changing this build. And we'll drop Lightning Field, and we'll look very quickly at some of the others. Dark Mastery, we could pick up Smite, but we're not going to get all the way to Darkest Night. We could drop in Experimental Injection, we could go Smite, we could go Engulfing Darkness, and we can drop Experimental Injection and go Darkest Night, and then we could fill this out pretty much the same way. And Smite gets the full Blistering Cold. And Engulfing Darkness, since we want that extra. And we'll do the same kind of slotting. Accuracy, damage, endurance, recharge. Actually, no, we'll go damage, endurance, recharge. And accuracy, endurance, recharge. We get our three pump knockback protection, and we get some little bit more damage, a little bit more PBAOE 2-hit, which is always good. And Darkest Night, we can just toss a 2-hit buff endurance on there. All right. We keep the same builds, we keep the same procs. We've actually technically now made this even more survivable, because now if we do drop Darkest Night on a target, on any con-even target, we're now rocking 12.59% to hit debuff. We are now into effective soft cap at range or at up close to any target that's not resisting the debuffs. You're now soft cap to smashing lethal energy negative AoE, and uh you're getting close to closing the gap with your attacks on being soft cap to range and psionic. And maybe not quite there, but between Cloak of Fear, Darkest Night, and your attacks, you could be really, really close. All right. So that's what dark looks like. And since that actually is a compelling particular reason to go dark, 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 we'll do that. All right, let's look and see what else we got in Sentinels. Oh, and if you take Darkest Night, that'll also help with taunting, because you can just drop it on enemies. All right. One I did here, Cremate, and oh, whoops. Let's get back into info and make sure we'll do Cremate, Char, and Warmth. And we'll take 2 slots from Char, we'll do slots and enhancements. Slots, auto to range all slots. Now we should have 2 slots we can place down there. And we'll fill this out with Blistering Cold, because we need that. Boom. We need that defense. We're only getting Resist Fire Cold. But if we quickly check our values here, at 68%, we know we're going to get 7% as Scaling Resist proc kicks in. So 68 plus 7, we're going to be getting very close to the hard cap of 75%. We should be at the hard cap of 75% with 7 more resistance to add. All right, and we'll do just for kicks the chance for Absorb on Char, just in case you use it. And now on warmth, we may be able to, do something a little different. What do we got on Tenebrious Regeneration? Uh, what we can do, maybe, is Numina, Heal Endurance, Numina, Endurance Recharge, and Numina, Heal Endurance Recharge. We now pick up a little bit more regeneration, a little bit more hit points. And now at the top end, we've now got a heal, another self heal for ourselves and for our teammates. I've got a AR SR fire that's kind of predicated on this. She just leaps into the middle of a fight and just heals everyone using warmth. Nobody expects the Sentinel to heal. This is a uh, this would be a very compelling build for me to go for a team. First of all, I'd be able to help in Lady Grey Task Force and the Richty Mothership raids because I have a hold and I have a heal to drop on my teammates. And I know it's a tertiary, so the endurance costs are aggressively incorrect. Excuse me, but still, it's a compelling perspective or a compelling way to make a particular build. Ice Mastery. Well, Snowstorm I'm not really a big fan of because there's no toggle slows. But you can get kind of obnoxious. And to make this work, we're actually going to do Frostbite first, and then Frozen Aura, and then Block of Ice. And I'll explain why it took. We may swap Frostbite or Ice Sword in a second. But for Block of Ice, we're going to do the same thing we did with the Fire and stick a chance for hold in here. We're going to come up and we're going to take a slot from Black Star. You might already have an idea where this particular build is going. We'll do slots and enhancement slots, auto arrange all slots. All right, and we're going to pick 2 more slots from Frostbite. And now we're going to change Black Star. Oh wait, no, this isn't going to work. Well, maybe it can work. Since I already know I don't need something to be compelling in a fight, we'll change Black Star to you. We'll take Frozen Aura out with Avalanche, and because we are not putting a damage proc on Frozen Aura, we can now take advantage of the foe's sleep, where we can use Black Star, deliver our damage, hit Frozen Aura, knock enemies down, and make them go to sleep at the same time. And if we do this afterwards, because Black Star is not a DOT, it's a single hit, and the chance for fire proc is single hit with it. So if you do Black Star and then Frozen Aura, you will maximize your damage, and then you will put everyone to sleep. As long as you're not running a interface that has a damage component, say like Degenerative, then you can just leave the enemies kind of writhing there and get away. It's a great survivability tactic. Now, we're short a blistering cold. Now, we can take a slot from Overwhelming Force and get back up to 5, but we really need to take 2 slots, and we'll lose some damage here, and we'll lose a little bit of our hit point cap. But we can either go Frozen Blast, or we can change to Ice Sword. I wasn't really sure if that was going to work like I wanted it to work. And we'll do Ice Sword out. And now we have a play strategy where we teleport. If we're going into a mob, we teleport in, or we go into mob, we teleport in, hit aim, hit Black Star, hit Frozen Aura, and then we can start laying down other damages or that we have, or we can use the opportunity to get away. This gives us more opportunities to get out. So this is if I was doing a dark, if I was doing a dark ice, this is, I think, a very compelling build. I'd actually probably say right now this is the favorite concept build I've done so far for this. And no, the reason why I haven't done, I haven't done a it's sort of like, did I try ice on my red dark? No, I went straight to lightning field because once I realized I could make the cutesy passive Pharma 707 work, admittedly slowly, but at least pull the stun off. That was too hard to pass up. And this approach does also, you are giving up something in Umbral Torrent to get there, but you are picking up greater PBAOE damage in Frozen Aura, so you are being a little bit more effective if you have to get in close. And you also are giving yourself greater utility to get out. So we'll save this. File save as Darkfire Ice R1. And now, before we move on, we're actually going to reload. I'm going to go back and reload the dark to start from there because that has all our slots kind of where we'd like them to be. And let's move on. What else do we got? Leviathan Mastery. Anything useful in here? Well, yeah, yeah, you can still make the build work because you still have knockout blow and, well, if you do knockout blow, you don't really have, like, I might do Spirit Shark Jaws for the hold and then summon Coralax. Slots and enhancements. Slots, all arrange all slots. We'll put a little bit in there. Spirit Shark Jaws. And we'll quickly go through and, well, what are you? You are energy negative. Okay, not melee. And we'll take knockout blow all the way out. And maybe this would not be a build I would make. But you can get maybe a little bit obnoxious with it. Let's do call expedient reinforcement resist. And for a 2-slot proc, alright, we'll just do endurance damage recharge. And we can put the Achilles heel chant for resist buff. Now, what should happen is that the Coralax should apply the resist debuff to every attack that it makes, which would be nice because now you've got an ablative target running around that is applying a resist debuff to everything it comes in contact with. Okay, I mean, that's interesting, but procs don't always carry through to pets. Buffs don't always carry through to pets. So that's how it may work. That's may not be how it actually works. Now, the other thing to keep in mind here is that even if you go full recharge, if you do accuracy recharge, and yeah, we'll do accuracy recharge, change that to 50. and skip the proc and just do accuracy damage recharge. So we're using all of the recharges. There we go. Our recharge time is in the yellow ED cap. You lock it off. You're not even close to Parma on the pet, so can't haul it out very often. And as you cannot buff the pet or do anything to the pet, it's going to die very, very quickly. I mean, great for taking aggro, but it's a cute concept. But that's almost all this is just a concept. But we'll save it anyways, just so it's in the archive. I probably won't be linking this one. And let's reset. File open. Sentinel. And let's keep rolling on. Next up is Mace Mastery. Okay. And we got Pulverize, so we can still make the build work. We do have Coordinated Targeting. And we do have Web Cocoon. So again, we can make this tertiary work for us and also be useful to our teammates. Not particularly a compelling build, mind you, but not a build to just go. If you're looking for a role play theme, knowing that you've got options to go to, and coordinated targeting only takes 2 hit sets. We're already using the Gaussian proc there, so let's look at our 3-slot bumps. That's a hit point, that's a resistance energy negative. We're a dark, so we're already doing pretty good on resistance on negative. Not doing so great, so maybe in this case adjusted targeting for that 3-slot buff might be useful, and we'll do 2-hit buff endurance recharge, and 2-hit buff endurance to maximize our endurance reduction. And this is basically a second tactics at the higher end. And Web Cocoon gets our by now standard chance to absorb. So now we're both useful in Lady Grey Task Force and Rickety Ship Motherway to add yet another hole to that ship that's running around. Not really I won't say this is a completely compelling build, but this basically does give you focused accuracy for your team. And that plus perception per team could actually be very valuable. If you're going up against Arachnos or enemies that have a high perception debuff chance, you might actually want to have this as your you can have 3 builds at the trainer. This might actually be a very compelling build to have at the trainer, simply because you can roll into team and bring some overall 2-hit buffs and perception buffage to the entire team. That could be a compelling reason to make this build. Oh, whoops. No, cancel. So we'll save that. Dark Mace. And we didn't really change our slotting, so we can just move on. Moo Mastery. Well, starting out, Thunderstrike, we can keep most of our slotting. Electric Shackles gives us a hold. And same thing, we can either do Static Discharge, gives us a cone, or we can do Static Discharge first. I'm not too fond of the pets, but Electric Shackles, we can just toss a hold in there, a Static Discharge. We can actually get creative with, because there's no limit on the power transfer chance to heal. So we can use, we want damage, accuracy, recharge, endurance. And in the tertiary powers, endurance reduction is always what you want to aim for first. Don't worry about don't worry about the don't worry about the damage, don't worry about anything else. Go for endurance reduction first. Because it's the tertiary power, it's going to be very low to begin with. Oh, well, Thunderstrike is okay. That just wrecked this plan. Okay. What just happened is Thunderstrike is a PBAOE, not a melee. Uh, and that means we are going to be short our Blistering Cold. We can bring Avalanche down, but then we still need to make up. Is there a good way to Static Discharge? Is what? Ranged? Well, that doesn't give us melee. We're about to lose a whole bunch of melee going down this way. That's ranged. Okay. And the only melee attack is Black Star. Okay, there may not be a good way to make electrical work. I do not get a melee defense in here now. I don't get a strong melee defense, and we need a strong melee defense. Okay. Let's see what this looks like. We're going to put in Obliteration. Now, this is not going to give us quite our... We're actually going to be down on Fire Cold and Melee, but let's see at least what Obliteration looks like. Okay, we're actually still soft capped to Melee through Obliteration, but we are down on Fire Cold, outright Fire Cold defense. Depending on how you play and what you're playing, you do pick up some extra PBAOE damage in Thunderstrike. This might be compelling. Wouldn't say it's the first choice I would make out of all of the selections available. But you do still have a hold to be useful in Lady Grey and Mothership raids, and you still have a little bit of nasty heal back on yourself with Static Discharge, and with all of the aforementioned debuff you can bring, you'd still be effectively soft capped to Fire Cold if you are using your powers against enemies that are not resisting your debuffs. So we'll go ahead and save this one. This was Dark Moo. And we'll move on. We didn't really change the slotting, so we can kind of turn all of those off. And Untitled Mastery. And I did, and we'll come back to that on anything later, but I did find a reason to. The Caltrop became very useful during a Mothership raid. Sting of the Wasp, so we get to keep our slotting. Paralyzing Dart gives us a hold, but we also get a PBAOE Placate. So we're going to... Can we drop anything else? Well, the easy one to drop here is, of course, Cloak of Fear. You don't really need it. We'll move Sting of the Wasps down. And we'll do the Lotus Drops. We'll do Paralyzing Dart. And we'll do Kamiri. And Kamiri takes a accurate 2-hit debuff. And Paralyzing Dart, we'll go ahead and just slot here. The Lotus Drops. We're going to do the same thing we did with the Heart of Darkness. And pick back up our Knock Protection. Sting of the Wasp will get out with And we need them to reach a recharge boost. We only need 4 slots. So if we take some slots to Umbral Torrent, or Umbral Torrent is only really here for that regeneration boost. We can actually drop Umbral Torrent. We can pick back up Cloak of Fear. We can move Cloak of Fear down. Need to go back to info screen. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put our 2-hit debuff Endurance and Cloak of Fear. And over in Kimmy, we can do chance for negative energy damage. And we'll do Cloud Senses out to pick up that recharge time. And we'll lock it off, check our recharge. Duration 15 seconds, recharge 43 seconds, so it's not super fast. But if you are in the middle of a mob and you need to get away, you can just, boom, placate them, and also do a hit to their minus damage, do a damage debuff, and do a 2-hit debuff. If you're playing a ninja, this might actually be compelling. I think if you're going to go the way of dropping an attack and getting out, the Ice Mastery and the Frozen Aura a much better approach. But if you're going whole hog on I'm a ninja, well, here you go. You're a ninja. All right. Okay, we just changed some slotting placement and other placement, so we'll go back and restart on our dark. And we're almost through all of the tertiary powers. We only have Sonic Mastery and Soul Mastery left. Sonic Mastery, Mind Probe, and we get to keep that slotting. And we've got a interesting one down here with Link Minds. And that could be very useful. We've actually got a number of powers here that could be very useful. So once again, we're going to drop Umbral Torrent to free up some slots. And we're going to take Psychic Shockwave first, then Link Minds, then Dominate all at the end. So in Dominate, just going to get our chant for Absorb. Mind Probe is going to get our Blistering Cold. Alright, now Link Minds gives us a defensive boost, and Psychic Shockwave gives us a good place to put our same triple slotting earlier. And in Link Minds, we do get 2-hit debuff and defense. So we can pick up we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We can pick up a 5th look at the Gambler proc. And we really want to focus on recharge. So we're going to go defense recharge, defense endurance recharge. And now we're just really quickly going to check what our recharge look like on Link Minds. Link Minds has a duration of 30 seconds, a recharge right now of 127. So if we go with endurance recharge, we're down to 112. Not quite perma. Is there anything else we can... and this is with Agility Radial in play. So not quite perma. And if okay, 1, 2, let's do a quick check here. No, we are not capped on 7.5. All right. If you can get link mines to perma, you can basically, well, let's go look at totals, hit link mines, and you've now drastically decreased the gap between what you needed to debuff and your soft cap defenses to smashing lethal. And we're very, very close on AoE as well. Even against hardened targets that are resisting debuffs, you may be able to stack enough to hit debuff to be into defensive soft cap with link mines. And it also does affect your teammates, and it does slam your psionic resist all the way into hard cap, and it does give your teammates a 2-hit debuff, like the coordinated targeting earlier. So, compelling reason to take this, but you're not going to have it perma. I don't even think if you are cranking Ageless Incarnate at top. If you have a Pocket Kin with you who's hitting you with Speed Boost, yeah, you'd probably be there. We'll save it anyways. Save as Dark, Dark, Dark Psi. Because otherwise it is kind of a compelling reason. Or it is a compelling option. And that just leaves one more. We are at 51 minutes. So one more and then we'll be done. And that's going to be Soul Mastery. And Midnight Grasp to keep our slotting. Soul Storm. And we can take Darkest Night at the top end. And there we go. Let's fill this in. Okay, could you swap Umbral Torrent and take Summon Mistress? Yeah, you could. We'll actually see what that looks like. Because if you're going to take the Dark and you can have one of the Arachnos take a little bit of aggro for you, yeah, that's cool and all. Darkest Night. 2-hit to buff Endurance. Soulstorm. Still looking at... We're capped on there. Anything else in here going to be useful at 3 slots? Well, we got APOC being used. We got all of those being used. 3 slots. Well, that's interesting. We do Lockdown. And we'll do Endurance Recharge Hold. And Accuracy Recharge Hold. So we pick up some extra hold with that. And we pick up some damage. And we pick up a little boost to hold. Alright, and now let's do a swap from Umbral Torrent to Summon Mistress. And Recharge Intensive Pets, we know that both give us 6.25%. And this one gives us HP and recovery, so we'll go with Call to Arms, because those are going to be useful to us. And we're going to focus on recharge. So endurance damage recharge, accuracy damage recharge, and accuracy recharge. And that pumps our recharge into green. Lock it off and check our numbers. We're still nowhere close to perma, but hey, you do have a mistress you can now drop into the fight. Just kind of something different to do. All right, so there we go. There's a Dark Sentinel, keeping the Fire Cold melee soft cap defenses, and running through all of the tertiaries, and hopefully that'll hit a sweet spot. I've been Aurian Archive.